Thorny, as we venture into the R&R, two truths are consistent. We love our dear Montana state, and we love great beer. And you know who else feels the same? Jeremiah Johnson Brewing. Brewed in the heart of Montana in downtown Great Falls, Jeremiah Johnson takes Montana's finest ingredients to craft some of Montana's favorite beers. And now, Jeremiah Johnson's second tap room is open in downtown Coeur d'Alene. Their Citra IPA is probably one of my favorites. But we all know, Thorny, you're not the hop lover I am. You're more of a Mountain Man Scotch Ale.
Well, Foley, I'm certainly not a mountain man, but you are right. I do love their Mountain Man Scotch Ale. But come game day, you and I are both cracking their golden Bobcat Pale Ale. So when you're looking for a quality craft beer brewed with Montana roots, a relaxing tap room, or just a six-pack to take to your favorite Bobcat tailgate, Jeremiah Johnson delivers. Make your next beer a Jeremiah Johnson, and as always, go Cats.
It's like you feel like this is the place you're supposed to be. You know, this is home.
Welcome, everybody, to the R&R Catcast, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're two dudes named Ryan from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy. Welcome back, Bobcat fans. Well, thank you for joining us. We are always happy to have you here. We are the Ryans of the R&R Catcast, the Montana State affiliate of the Big Sky Podcast Network. We are brought to you by Jeremiah Johnson Brewing, brewed in downtown Great Falls, Montana. They are releasing some of their new spring beers and summer beers, getting ready for the summer season. Can't wait to try some of those beers over in Coeur d'Alene, where they have a second tap room. And Thorny, I think I have to bring you some next time I see you.
Yeah, I think you do. I can't get a hold of it all the way out here, so I'm excited. Yeah, next time we meet up, you got to give me some of that summer beer you're talking about there.
Absolutely.
It's that time to transition from the darks to the lighter beers of summer.
I love it. I love it. Well, all right. We have a special episode for you guys today. Thanks for listening. As always, we were able to connect and interview Mike Person, former great Montana State offensive lineman, NFL veteran, and just all-around good guy.
It was a lot of fun, man. It was fun having the Bobcat great like him. He doesn't want us to use the L word. You'll get it. You'll hear that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. You'll hear some good stories about his time, all the way from being recruited by Mike Kramer, all the way to his time in the NFL with the funny Aaron Donald story. So let's get out of your hair. Let's just get right into it. Here is our interview with former Montana State offensive lineman Mike Person.
Right now, we welcome in Mike Person, former Montana State offensive lineman. Mike, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. It's a blast to be on here. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so are we, man. We're both big fans of you and your playing days, and really excited to get another Bobcat legend on our little fledgling podcast. Appreciate it.
Hey, easy with the L word. I don't know if I'm a legend, but
All right. Well, we had talked to Mike before getting on, and he agreed to do this. And so, Mike, we're going to talk about what we're going to drink tonight, like we do with all of our podcasts. And so, Thorny, I'll let you start off. Mike, you're going to go second. I'll take third.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. I got it's a German beer, Kostreitzer. Hope I said that somewhat right. It is a what is it? It is a Germany's #1 black lager beer from some brewery from 1543. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's in a big can. Got it in Bellingham. Not too alcoholic, but not too much alcohol content. Excuse me. But yeah, it's pretty good, man. I like black lagers. I like pretty much any German beer ever. So I'm on board.
Heck yeah, that sounds good. I got High West Double Rye, some whiskey right now. So enjoying
nice, just
it.
on the rocks.
Yep. As you can hear my ice clink in my glass.
Oh, man, that reminds me of our first episode ever. Don't go back and listen to it. But Thorny had a mixed drink, and it was that all hour long. Is great.
I was clinking the entire time.
Well, I'll make sure I don't do that.
It's good memories right there.
We've upgraded now that we have the coolies on our beers. Now when I slam my beer down, it's a little padding, so it doesn't make a clunk anymore. We're slowly getting rid of our drinking
we'll
noises.
Have to send you one.
Moving up in the world.
Yeah.
I have an IPA from Bellbreaker, which is in Yakima, Washington. It's called Leota May. It's Leota May. I was just reading the can. It was the matriarch of that family, and apparently was the person who planted the hops in Yakima back in 1932. It's got a good bitter taste. I like the bitter beers, and so that's what I got. Washington beer.
I miss fishing the Yakima River. Sorry for that.
It's a good one.
Oh God, up by Cle Elum. Sorry for that.
Oh yeah. No.
All right. Well, for those who might not know, Mike Person was an offensive lineman. Were you a right tackle your whole career at MSU?
Right tackle for 3 years, left tackle my senior year.
Senior year. Okay. So redshirt year, 2006, became a starter in 2007, but I think you were kind of injured a little bit in 2007, but in 2008 is when you really came into your own, started all 12 games, became honorable mention Big Sky when Montana State had the number 1 rushing offense in the conference.
Nice.
2009 became first team Big Sky and is capped off in 2010 with the first team Big Sky, first team All-American as the Bobcats won their first Big Sky Conference championships in 2005. I got here that you started 35 games in a row at one point, and I believe you've been inducted to the Montana State Hall of Fame recently. Is that correct?
Yeah. I got the call after the last class got inducted. I don't know what the process is right now with COVID everything, but I was super excited to get that call from Leon.
And you say you're not a legend. All right. After that, though, spent some time in the NFL, got drafted in 2011 by the San Francisco 49ers in the 7th round, ended up playing in 73 games, starting 43, and capped off with a Super Bowl appearance in 2020, in the 2019 season in 2020. And maybe your biggest accolade of all, you were named the R&R CatCast Offensive Lineman of the Decade. So,
no, I didn't know that. Thanks, guys.
Your trophy is in the mail.
Where's my plaque?
Yeah. I have it's just not back from the trophy maker yet. Lost in the mail, right? The invitation's lost in the mail.
I guess we could send him a golden coolie.
There you go.
There we
I
go.
can handwrite offensive lineman of the decade on it.
I would use that coolie every single day.
All right, consider it done. Right on. All right, Mike. So we're going to keep this about Montana State. That's what we do. We're going to start off with your recruiting story. And maybe when you talk about your recruiting story, if you can think about who was your recruiter as well, we'd like to know that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it kind of really started going into my junior year. I went to the big man camp in Billings back when they used to do that. You know, Coach Mack was there. O-line coach from U of M was there. Eastern Washington, few other schools and whatnot. And I remember talking to Coach Mack and having a good. Hold that thought. Let me go back to 7th grade. Okay.
I like
so it. Glendive, my dad, he was the football coach, athletic director. I went to lunch with him and my mom one day, and it just so happened that Coach Kramer was doing his Eastern swing of the state in the spring. You know how he'd always tour the state and whatnot. We just so happened to go to the same restaurant in Glendive, one of 3 restaurants there.
Can't be too bad of odds of that happening.
Yeah. And Coach Kramer knew my dad, came down, said hi, and I was sitting there eating lunch with my dad and mom, and Coach Kramer walks up. Obviously, I knew who he was. This had to be, I think this was the season right after the streak ended in 2002. So the spring of 2003. And I remember eating lunch, and Kramer came down and introduced himself. Well, he knew my dad, but they shook hands, and my dad introduced me to Coach Kramer, and Coach Kramer was like, "Oh, well, maybe we have a future Bobcat on our hands." And from that moment, I mean, I was hooked.
Nice.
I wanted to be a Bobcat from that moment. Then fast forward, like I said, met Coach Mack going into my junior year of high school that summer at the big man camp. And, he kind of kept in contact a little bit. And then going into my senior year, I went to the team camp by myself in Bozeman. And I mean, I'll never forget that day. I think it was after the first or second practice, because it was 2-a-days. You pay to go to 2-a-days at these team camps, which looking back, it's like
good deal for the school.
Yeah, right. But after that second practice, that first day, I remember Coach Kramer came up to me. He goes, "Hey, Mike, come meet me in my office." And you know how deep his voice is. "Come meet me in my office once you get dressed." And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know where the hell his office is. But I figure it out, and I go into the offices, and he's sitting there BSing with Coach Mack, and I'm kind of like, and they're talking for about 5 minutes. I'm sitting there like, did I do something wrong? What's going on? And eventually from that, they gave me a scholarship offer. And this was a week before the big man camp in Billings. And so, I mean, I was pumped. That's what I've been shooting for. And all through my junior year, Wyoming had been contacting me a little bit. And I knew Wyoming was going to be at the big man camp. And their O-line coach is Chad Germer, who's the O-line coach at Montana and was a great player there, great coach for them. And I go to the big man camp, and Wyoming offered me. So I was pretty excited. I was kind of torn, honestly, between Wyoming and Montana State. Those were my two offers. Montana didn't really recruit me at all. So whatever. I wanted to be a Bobcat. And going in to my senior year, we're about halfway through the season. I was kind of leaning towards Wyoming. They wanted to bring me in for an official visit, but nothing really materialized out of that. And then the 2005 Cat Grizz game came on. I watched it with my dad, which I was supposed to be at, but that's a whole nother story, why I couldn't make that. But as soon as the game ended, I told my dad, I go, I that's where I want to play football at. That's where I want to go to school, want to play football. And my dad said, well, if that's what your decision is, that's what it is. And that's where your mom wants you to go. That's where I want you to go. But as long as that's where you want to go, then we're all about it. And, as they say, the rest is history.
It's kind of interesting. You always wonder when you're talking of like how big of an impact does the Cat Grizz previous game have? And here's kind of an instance of maybe it persuaded you one way watching the Cat Grizz game. I guess you weren't choosing between Montana and Montana State, but just the fact that game looked exciting and the Cats came out on top maybe helped you make a decision.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it didn't hurt that Jeff Bolton won the FCS Lineman of the Year that year, and I mean,
the Remington Award, right? That's what it's called.
Yeah, the Remington. I forgot to tell you about the in-home visit with Coach Mack and Coach Kramer. The night that I officially committed, this is about 2 weeks after Cat Grizz. We're in full-on basketball season mode, and we had a really good basketball program. Coach Selvig, Rob Selvig's brother, he was our basketball coach. His son Derek played for the Grizz, and I told him, I said, so Coach Kramer and the offensive line coach, Coach McIndoe, they want to come watch basketball practice. And Coach Selvig, he was all for it. I mean, that guy, he's awesome. He's like, yeah, absolutely. I'd love for them to come watch. So I'm nervous all practice. I keep looking at the door. Are they going to show up? They don't show up. So I'm like, oh God, what's going on? And we knew that they were going to come to the house and visit with us afterwards. And I get home at 6:00. Thought they'd be there by now. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe something happened. Maybe they can't make it. It's like 8:30 in Glendive. And all of a sudden I see these headlights pull up in front of our house. And Coach Kramer steps out and he sees me standing at the door. And his voice, you know how big and booming it was. Oh, Michael, what's going on? And I mean, it just echoes down the entire street. I'm like, hey, Coach. And I'm thinking to myself, come on, man, you got to keep it down. There's people sleeping right now. But that ended up being the night that I officially committed. And yeah, I wouldn't change a darn thing. That's for sure.
Nice. That's a good story. And we're certainly glad you ended up in Bozeman, as you had a hell of a career.
Hold on, Tony, just real quick before we move on from that. I just wanted to know, as you were telling that, did you ever talk to our friend Bill Lamberty about that Wyoming poll right there? Because Bill's got some Wyoming ties for sure.
No, I never did. I never did. I never did think to talk to him about it.
Bill would have been happy either way, I guess.
Yeah, he would have. Right on.
So you're talking a little bit about, Mike Kramer, the one who recruited you, ended up signing. Obviously, after the 2006 season, Mike Kramer was fired. We're not going to talk about any of the reasons or anything like that, but we're kind of curious. Yeah. What was the transition like from Mike Kramer to Rob Ashe? And kind of a second question, how important was it that Ashe decided to keep Jason McIndoe on staff?
So to answer your second part, it was huge. I mean, it for me personally, because every single guy that's come through there for Coach Mack on the offensive line, Coach Mack has made that guy part of their family, part of his family. And, he's an amazing football coach, but he's a 10 times better person. And that relationship that I was lucky enough to build up for 5 years with him, I mean, it's pretty special. We still talk every month, and I'd do anything for him. But as for the transition from Coach Kramer to Coach Ashe, it was tough because we'd obviously finished spring ball. Everything went down in May. I was driving to my sister's house in North Dakota when Coach Mack told me what happened. Coach Kramer got let go, but I was obviously devastated because, I mean, like a lot of guys who come across Coach Kramer, they really appreciate him for how he coached, But when Coach Ashe came in, it definitely signaled a change in direction. But the way he built the program, he built it to last, I think, in certain ways. He didn't rely on JUCO transfers and guys coming in for 1 or 2 years. But it was tough because of the timing. Looking back on it, obviously there's always going to be people who resisted. I want to say, I can't think of a better word. Some of the upperclassmen, but it was tough for everybody involved, including Coach Ashe, because he had to try and install what he wanted in 3 months as opposed to coming in January or February.
That's good to think about as we go forward with Brent Vegan, and we're going to touch on him a little bit later. But I want to go in a different direction right now. As a teacher, I'm always interested in leadership. And in 2008, you were named the most inspirational player on the team. And in 2010, you were voted a team captain. So my question to you, Mike, is was leadership something that you were thrust into? Did you assume that role? Was it something that was natural to you?
It definitely wasn't natural to me. I was lucky enough to play 3 years next to one of the best leaders I've ever been around in Jeff Hansen. Every start I made for 3 years was next to him. And the way he went about things, he may not have been a team captain when I was a true freshman, and he was a year older than me, but I tried to soak in what he did, because you could tell that this guy, he gets it. He understands how to go about the process. And back to Coach Mack, he really helped develop that in me. He would give me homework assignments, basically. He'd give me books to read on leadership and how to, in different methods of leading. And, as a young kid, you think that a leader is someone who's always out there being the rah-rah guy. And as you evolve and grow older, you realize that that's not you. And by the time I was a senior, I was more of a guy that I'm going to show up, I'm going to do my work. And if you're not doing it the way I do, then yeah, I'll say something, but I want to lead by example. I remember having a conversation with Alex Terrian. He was a year younger than me, and he's another great leader. And I remember telling Alex, hey, if I'm saying too much in a certain situation, just tell me to be quiet, because I'm going to listen to you. And there was instances during that senior year when that happened. I was saying stuff on the bench, and Alex would say, hey, Mike, it's okay, calm down. And I'd sit down, and, it's being a leader isn't your way or the highway. It's accepting every view that you come across, every view of someone that's your peer, that you're trying to lead. That's just kind of my opinion on it.
Well, I did reach out to Jody Owens about you. Jody's a friend of our podcast as well. And Jody was excited when he heard you were coming on the podcast, and he mentioned his story back in 2009 when you guys played Michigan State. Jody said, I was just a young pup, and I was super nervous before the game. And you came over to him, apparently, and put your arm around him and said something basically like, it's going to be all right. And for Jody, he said that made the world of difference to him. And he called you a big brother. So you definitely had an impact on Jody just by your candor, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, Jody's a guy, I absolutely love him. He was one of the fiercest competitors that you could go against. Like, we'd be doing our summer drills, and they'd be doing their 7-on-7, and us O-linemen, we'd get bored of doing our drills for 2 hours straight while they're doing their team organized 7-on-7 stuff. So some of us would go run routes, and I remember I went in at tight end one time and caught a ball, and Jody was pissed, and he's like, man, get the real tight ends out here. I'm like, well, shit, if you can't cover me, then what's going on here? But no, he's one guy that as a young pup, you could tell he was going to be something special, because like I was talking with Jeff about Jeff, he got it. Jody got it. He understood what it took to be successful. And you can see it with his coaching career now. And his future is so bright. I can't wait to keep track of where he goes. But there was days in camps where we absolutely hated each other. But, at the end of the day, you walk off the field, and especially in college football, it really is a family. Those are the guys that you sweat with, you bleed with, and you would do anything for any of those guys.
Nice.
I get the impression that Zach Minter might have felt that way about you too, a little bit tired of getting beat up by you. Because the question I'm going to ask you next is, who was the toughest guy you played against? And typically, people we have on the podcast answer an opponent, but Zach Minter said you. Of all the guys he could have picked in the Big Sky Conference, he said Mike Person was the toughest guy. He had to go up and he had to do it every day in practice. He said it was awful.
Zach definitely gave me quite a few headaches. I was lucky enough to be playing tackle and not on the inside, so I didn't get my butt whooped every day by him. But he was a special athlete. Dane was a year older than me. He and me being a junior, him being a senior, and being able to block him and one-on-ones and team, that gave me confidence, not only going into my senior year, but as I was going into the NFL, because I thought Dane Fletcher was, dude was a stud. Let's be honest. And I kept telling myself, shit, if I can block Dane, I can block these guys. And that kind of carried me. It really did. So Dane was definitely up there. You could see it with Caleb Schreibice when he was a freshman. I think he was 3 or 4 years younger than me. We'd butt heads quite a bit, but you could see where his trajectory was as a college player. But some of the best battles that I had were in August and March and April against our own guys when we're so sick of hitting the same guy every single day. But it's pretty nice when you have guys of that caliber to practice against every day.
Something I just thought of I was hoping you'd pick someone out from the Big Sky Conference, and I just realized it's probably easier for people who played in your time, because back then everybody played everybody in the Big Sky Conference, so you saw the same team every single year. That's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
But I was just kind of curious: is there any opponent that kind of gave you headaches, or you just like, oh man, not that guy again?
In my younger years, Greg Peach, he was at Eastern. My redshirt freshman year, I had a rough game against him. I think I gave up 2.5 sacks. O-linemen don't forget the sacks that they give up. That's for darn sure. And that was a tough game, I remember. As I got older, I just got more comfortable with the guys that I went against in practice, knowing that they were the best that the Big Sky had to offer. And obviously other teams had very good players. I think Sac State had Zach Nash. He had a little spell in the NFL. NAU, my senior year, I'm blanking on his name. They had a pretty good defensive end when we went down there and laid a goose egg. I won't ever forget that first start I had at Texas A&M in 2007, because we had their D-line had Michael Bennett, Jonathan Jolly, Red Bryant, and then I had this 6'5", 270 defensive end, Chris Harrison. I think he was the only one not to make the NFL. And I weighed all of 265 pounds my redshirt freshman year, walking into Kyle Field, and forgot my helmet on the flight. First flight of my life. Oh, God.
Good start.
It could only be up from there, that's for sure.
Yeah. So one quick last question kind of on this subject. You played along some pretty good linemen during your time, and you've mentioned a couple of them, Jeff Hansen, Alex Terrian, and I have like Conrad Burbank on my list here too.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you, if you were a defensive lineman, who would you least like to go against of the guys that you played alongside of?
Jeff, for sure. The guy, he was a bulldog, but he I don't know how to explain it, but the time that he put in, it just wasn't vanity time. You know what I'm saying? The work that he put in was very specific to what he was doing. And when we would watch film together, I tell you what, it would make my job playing next to him a heck of a lot easier, because he would get after dudes. People don't realize it now, about 12 years after the fact, 13 years after the fact, but Jeff Hansen was a special player. He really was.
All right, Mike. Thorny and I debated this just yesterday as we were putting some of our questions together. We got to know, do offensive linemen talk trash?
Absolutely not. At least me. My whole philosophy was, you don't poke the bear. If you, I know we want to focus on our on my MSU experience, but like in the NFL going against Aaron Donald, I mean, the dude doesn't say a word on the field unless you say something to him. And after every play, oh man, Aaron, great job, man. Great move. That was awesome. Just let them build up that confidence a little bit so that maybe they'll lighten up a little bit. Yeah.
Maybe he won't kill you.
I mean, there's, yeah. And he could with one move. and then there's always the dudes that do come in and talk trash. I have a great story about that, about Aaron Donald, actually. But that we can save that for another time.
Yeah, you can't just say okay.
You got to go for that.
Okay. Yeah. So in, what was it, 2018, we were playing the Rams the last game of the year. And our left guard gets hurt. Backup comes in. And Aaron, he was going for 20 sacks. He was at 18. He didn't have any up to that point. Left guard gets hurt. Then the backup comes in. He's in for a couple series, and then all of a sudden, after a play, you hear part of my language right here. Oh man, you're not shit. I'm gonna mess you up. Blah blah blah. And he's walking back to the huddle, and it's me, Weston Richburg, Mike McGlinchey, and Joe Staley, Joe is one of the best tackles to play the football game ever. And we all go to this guy, we're like, Josh, what are you doing? Be quiet. The dude hasn't gotten a sack all day. Just shut up. He's the best player in the world. Sure enough, about 2 plays later, he gets a sack.
Just owns him.
All I can think of is the Michael Jordan documentary. And he's like, and I took it personally.
And that's exactly what it is.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that one. That's good.
Absolutely.
Oh, man. All right. Well, the next question we have is a question that we ask all of our guests that we interview, but we got to know, what was your best memory at MSU?
I mean, the best memory I had was 2010 after we beat the Grizz. We drove back in a snowstorm. I mean, you guys remember that game? It was 20 below wind chill, snowstorms. And the bus ride back was a blast. And as soon as we got back, every single guy's in sweatpants, sweatshirts. It's freezing cold out. We went straight downtown. All of us. And I forget the name of the bar now. But there's like 50 football guys. We're the only guys in town just in the bar. Nobody else is there. And we are just having the time of our life, dancing on the bar, singing Moni Moni. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, I love it.
But one of the most vivid memories I have is the first time I walked across Kagi Boulevard. I think we were playing Chadron State my freshman year. I'm in full pads. Not to talk about that game, but the pregame of it. I remember walking across Kagi, and then all of a sudden the smell of all the bratwurst, all the tailgating, it just hit you, and you're like, this is a totally different experience than what you're used to from high school. I'll never forget that smell. And every time I smell someone grilling bratwurst, I think of the very first game I dressed at Montana State University.
That's interesting. I like that. It is special though, right? I mean, as a fan, you just have to walk up on the tailgate. You're right. You just cross Kagi and you know it's game time. The smells, the sounds. Yeah. It's Ryan and I got to go back for homecoming last year when we played Sac State, and we hadn't been back in a while, and it was just like you never missed a beat. It was exactly the same, but even better. It was awesome.
It's like you feel like this is the place you're supposed to be. You know, this is home. It's a special feeling. I remember training camp my freshman year, and we were on the intramural fields right outside the field house there, and I just remember looking across to the stadium like, holy shit. You can't beat this.
Yeah, that it was just a special time. And yeah, like Ryan says, special coming back, and it's just kind of like it's home almost. Like it's a special place in your heart. So we worked up to 2010 there, which ended up being a very special year for the Bobcats. And man, it had to feel so good to beat the Grizz your senior year, especially since I'm looking back at the records, 2008, 2009, and the Cats were pretty good, but I think they both ended basically because the Grizz won last game and pretty much knocked us out of any potential playoff spot. So the 2010 year was special because not only did you beat the Grizz, but you also had the first 9-win season that Montana State has had since I think the championship season in '84, and the first Big Sky Conference championship in 2005. Just how special was it to be on that 2010 team? And could you kind of see it coming in the year or two prior?
Yeah, I mean that's a memory that I'm always going to hold near and dear to my heart. That season, we got our NFC championship rings this past September, and in the display case, first thing I did was put that ring right next to it because that's how special it is to me. We had a really good group of leaders in that senior class, and guys that came a year later with Jordan Craney and Dan Ogden. But the one who really spearheaded it was Mikey Ryder. He spearheaded not just making it a team, but making it a family. We'd always have barbecues at his house, and kind of our mantra going into that season was we had a fear of being forgotten. And, it rang true. It struck everybody. It hit everybody. I remember I think it was homecoming against Portland State. We were down 16-0 or something. And it was just a group of guys who refused to accept anything less than Big Sky Conference champions at minimum. That wasn't the end goal. That was the minimum goal. And that was such a special group. And, it's one of those things Coach Mack would always tell us. High school football is great. College football, these are the only guys that I still talk to this day. NFL guys, I met them. They're great. Every once in a while we'll say hi, but that 2010 team, those are the guys that I keep in contact with the most. And it's just, I can't think of another word besides special to be a part of something like that.
Yeah, that was a very special time as a Bobcat fan when we really turned that corner and just see things, a bright future. Had a little guy named Denarius McGee coming onto the scene. I actually have a real quick question about him. Could you kind of tell that he was going to be a dude when he was redshirting in 2009?
Yeah, you could. So he got up to Bozeman, I think in June or July before his freshman year, and you could see him throwing the football. I was like, okay, he can throw a nice football. And then he gets in camp and he's just throwing these darts all over the place. And literally they were all over the place sometimes. But you could see the potential of him. And, once you get around the guy, how bubbly he is, how contagious he is, and his personality. And I think he was the perfect fit for us at that time. And I mean, Denarius, he's a special human, that's for sure.
I remember one of the very first interviews I saw of McGee. He was talking to the press and telling everyone, giving him a hard time for the way he would say Wanda in the huddle. It's like Wanda.
Yeah.
Wanda.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that or not. His Texas accent.
Oh my gosh.
I would get on Denarius quite a bit. Looking back, I might have been too hard on him, but he could handle it. That's for sure. And for everything I said to him, he could dish it right back out.
He's a special Bobcat for sure.
No question.
Yeah. Hey, let's stick on the 2010 season. it ended with a loss to North Dakota State, 17-42. I distinctly remember watching that game over at the not the High Ho in Great Falls, but there's another the halftime. I was watching
Halftime,
it. And I was having it was good for most of it, and then it was really bad in the fourth quarter. What do you remember about that game?
I remember that last touchdown put us up 17-14 right before the fourth quarter started.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we were going into the fourth quarter 17-14 and want to get another shot at Eastern, who we had played really well against earlier in the year, and thinking, this is possible. But then all of a sudden you see the budding of a dynasty, and that's what it was, because the very next year they won the national championship. They wore us down, and their formula, it hasn't changed since 2010. It's, we're going to run the ball and wear you down, and you better not make any mistakes if you want to beat us. And unfortunately we did make mistakes, but I remember those last couple drives, I was literally in tears in the middle of a pass block as we're trying to play catch up. And it's tough for any athlete at any level, realizing that this is the last time you're going to play. But yeah, that was tough.
Man, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I remember I didn't think I would talk about this. It wasn't even on my mind, but I remember Jody Owens' the last game, and I talked to him about this. He got hurt his last game, and I remember the camera panned to him on the sidelines, and he was just pacing back and forth. You could see the hurt in his eyes, and I think I probably started almost crying at home, because he was one of my all-time favorite players, and I was like, man, just that moment, and to hear you talk that, it just brought that up in my brain. So wow.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. I mean, especially in college, because you spend 5 years of your life there, and 5 years of really important years of your life, and you make these lifetime friends, and then in 3 hours it's done.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, good perspective.
I think that's why we love sports so much, right? As fans, is the emotional attachment to it. There's the community. It's all, you just all feel connected.
Especially college sports. I mean, you guys went to MSU, so you're connected to that university. You're invested in it, and it just pulls you in.
Makes you want to podcast in your late 30s.
Oh man, there it is. There's some levity. I was feeling the feels there for a moment. I'm glad you brought that in. Jeez.
I was trying to figure out how we're going to transition out of that. And that worked. That did
it. All right, Mike, I got the next one for you. So we're kind of going to put a cap on the playing days, and we're going to move into the back half of this. But in that 2010 game, a certain head coach to be, Brent Vegan from Montana State, was there in Bozeman. And when we were listening to him this last week, he said that 2010 game endeared him to Montana State. So this is a two-part question for you. First, we want to know, were you able to cultivate a relationship with Coach Choate? And then second, and you could just be as brief as you want on this, what do you think of the hire in Brent Vegan?
So yeah, with Coach Choate, we text I text him every so often, and mainly around Cat Grizz. After he beats their ass, I'd say congrats and all that. And before the season, he'd shoot me a text just saying good luck, and it wasn't too extensive, but from the very little contact that I had with him, you could tell that he was a guy that players would get behind, and that's what you need. And with Coach Vegan, I'm excited. I really am. He may not seem like he has the same intensity in front of the media as Coach Choate does, but I have zero doubts that once he gets in front of a team behind closed doors, that it's go time, and guys are gonna buy into him, and I think we'll see a lot of similar aspects to how the football game is played from Coach Choate to Coach Vegan. So I'm excited by the hire, and it's good days for the Bobcats, that's for sure.
Nice. We think so too. So It's good to hear that.
We're excited.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I do have an NFL question for you. As we're moving towards this back half, I've always wondered this, and you are probably, I think you're the first person who I've ever talked to who actually has played in the NFL. And that's true. No.
Zach Minner.
Did Zach have a cup of coffee with someone? I can't remember that. Yeah, the Bears, right?
Yeah, he told us
the Bears.
Sorry, Zach.
Sorry, Zach. We love you, man. So, so the question, okay. Are you allowed to become a fan of the team you play for?
Oh, that's kind of a loaded question. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely allowed to. So with me, it's not so much a fan of a team. It's a fan of the relationships that I've built. Like I have friends on San Francisco. I'm going to root for the Jets because I have friends on the coaching staff there. I'm going to root for Atlanta because I have a few friends there. I want my buddies to do well. So like if things ended differently, like if you don't get cut from a team and all that, then yeah, I could see myself rooting for a specific team. But really at the end of the day, I want my buddies to do well. Like same thing with Kansas City. After we lost the Super Bowl, I sent my old O-line coach from Kansas City a text saying congrats. As much as it hurt to do that, but it's nice to see good people succeed.
Hey, I'm just curious, how many Grizz did you bump up against the NFL? Was for example, I know Chase Reynolds was on the Rams roster for a while. Were you there at the same time Chase Reynolds was?
Yeah, Chase and I were with the Rams for 2 years together. And we had a pretty good friendship. We really did. We were the same class, played in the Mondac game together, so we kind of knew each other beforehand.
Two guys in the NFL on the same team who played in the Mondac game, that's got to be pretty rare.
Right?
Let alone anybody who knows what the Mondac game is.
Rest in peace. It's a bummer that's
right.
With,
that's right.
Gosh.
Wow.
But yeah, Chase was great. I got there week 3, I think, and he was one of the first guys to come up to me in the locker room. So, our Cat Grizz rivalry, it's intense, but as you guys know, if you see anybody from Montana and you find out that they're from Montana, you're going to go up and talk to them, and you're going to be there for them. And that's what Chase was for me in St. Louis. And then I was in Atlanta with Croy. Who else? Oh, Brock in St. Louis or San Francisco, excuse me, Brock Coyle. And he's the same way as Chase, one of the first guys to come up to me. Who else? I think I played the Holmes kid, Tyrone Holmes, in the preseason once.
Yeah.
Other than that, went on kickoff return against Dane once. that was a weird feeling. I had some flashbacks for that, but other than that, I don't think any other Grizz that I played against.
Yeah, I just always thought it'd be kind of funny, like the Cat Grizz crossing paths here and there in the NFL. It does happen more than you would probably think it does. So.
Tremaine. And Tremaine
right,
Johnson. Yeah, Tremaine. And of course, Brandon Fisher, he was on the coaching staff in St. Louis. And we'd always talk shit, Cat Grizz, but no, we got along pretty well, and I'd always give him like a blindside push before games, just to, one, because I think he liked it, but 2, just because it's Cat Grizz and I wanted to.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Would have Colt Anderson been around the same time in Indianapolis as you? I think he played up there.
So I think we missed each other by a year. Yeah, or he was injured the year that I got there in 17.
Sure. I got one more NFL question for you. I was looking at your stats to like get your starts and stuff. I saw in 1 year in Atlanta, it says you fumbled the ball 4 times. Is that true?
Yeah, bad snaps. So when
those count as fumbles?
Yeah, that counts as a fumble. Thanks for bringing those up. Jeez.
I was thinking, like, how did you have possession of the ball and fumble it? But now, okay, that makes more sense. Sorry about that.
Tearing open a scabbed over wound. Jeez, man.
Yeah, it's the only one I saw, so if it makes you feeling better.
No, you're good.
4 in 1 year and then goose eggs everywhere else.
Well, I guess that's pretty hard. Playing center too much.
Oh man, that's actually, I learned something. I had no idea that a bad snap counted as a fumble. It's funny.
Yeah,
pin on the center.
That was kind of my undoing in Atlanta. Those bad snaps, which rightfully so. You can't run an offense if you get the center to fumble the snap once every 4 games.
All right. Well, we have a couple of questions too from the Bobcat message board. We put it out there that we're going to interview. One Colorado cat wanted to know just what was life like on the bubble in your first 3 or 4 years, not really knowing if you're going to stick around or anything like that. How was that kind of a time in your life?
So really for 7 of the 9 years I was on the bubble, and it's not only stressful for me, but for my wife and our family. It's, you don't know where you're going to be. Like our second child, our daughter, Kelly was pregnant. We were in Atlanta. I got cut week 7. She was 7 months pregnant. Week 9, Kansas City signs me. So I go to Kansas City. And it happened to time out perfectly. We had a Thursday night game in December. Kelly was right within the threshold to get induced to have Nora, our daughter. And so we played the Thursday night game. I flew out Friday morning at 5, got into Atlanta at 7. Kelly had Nora at noon, and then Sunday I have to leave. And then I missed the first month of my daughter's life. So it's definitely stressful. I mean, and that's something looking back that I wish I would have just said, just play ball and block it out, the being on the bubble. But I've always been kind of a worrier. So that was tough. And then once I realized that you just play ball, that's the best thing you can do, just block out all the noise. That's when I had my most successful in San Francisco. Because I just went into it. I was planning on retiring after 7 years, and then they called in May, and I said, you know what, just give it one more go, and whatever happens, happens. And looking back, I wish I had that attitude for the first 7 years.
Kind of leans into the second question we got from the board. Bleeding Blue asks, how do you know it was time to hang up the cleats?
Yeah, so that last year in 19, it definitely took a toll on my body. I had some things going on with my neck. I'd get 5-6 stingers a game. For the last month of the season, I couldn't take a 20-pound dumbbell and do a bicep curl with my left arm just because everything was shot in it. So it once they said that they were going to release me, it was kind of like, well, do you want to chase it some more? But with COVID happening, you could kind of see that it was going to be a mess this season. So my wife and I talked, and we thought that now was the time. I'm sick of making my family move, and I want to spend more time with them. because I've spent a lot of time away from them while I played. So it was a combination of things with the family and then just with the body. I mean, I miss it now, but in the moment of it, waking up at 5:30 to go to treatment at 6 every single day for 6 months, and then having to get treatment after practice, after meetings, so you get home at 7 every single day, it wears on you.
Well, I'm sure you're happy to be able to spend more time with your family and hopefully get healed up a little bit.
Yeah, no question. Hopefully someday I'll get healed up.
Well, I'm sure keep drinking rye should help, I think. That's my philosophy.
Yeah, there you go. That's been my philosophy too for the past year.
Well, your time in the NFL did produce a pretty awesome photo. I'm sure you know exactly the one I'm talking about. You're basically your William Wallace photo.
Yeah. That it was a cool moment. We're on the fight back and we won, so everyone's in good spirits. And Weston showed me this picture, and I couldn't believe it. It's pretty cool. I got it hanging up in my new office, and it kind of epitomizes what my career was. It was fighting through the mud and the muck and just trying to survive.
So we were wondering, I mean, we have like a couple copies of this, just like looking at it right now in our document, but I'm pretty sure we want to do like a straight up trade with you. So if you could maybe sign one of these photos, and then we'll send you a legion of golden coolies, we can make that happen.
I would gladly do that.
Okay. we'll arrange that after this. Mike, if you've listened to our show, I wrote a couple buy or sell questions for you, and that's the last thing we got for you. All right.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. So if you never played buy or sell, all you got to do is say, are you buy or selling it? And these are all for you. And maybe just a quick little reason why, and then we'll get you out of here, buddy. First one, being that you live in Ohio and having lived in Ohio, I know this is near and dear to my heart. Buy or sell Skyline Chili?
I'm buying it. At first, I wasn't on board with it, but I'm all in on it. It's some good stuff.
Nice. There's some
you like
positive...
it on pasta or chili, or I'm sorry, pasta or hot dogs, or both.
What do you mean? In the chili?
Yeah, the chili.
The chili on pasta or hot dogs.
Yeah. I got you.
I think it's called like 3-way or 5-way or whatever.
So I haven't actually been to the restaurant. We just buy they sell them in the canned stuff,
here.
Mm-hmm. But I'd much rather have any chili on a hot dog.
Oh, it's so good. Coney dogs basically is what that is.
Exactly.
Yeah, hungry. Some good childhood memories for me. I remember going. My aunt would take me there in the little Coney dogs. They're tiny little hot dogs, but they would pile the shredded cheese, which is like angel hair. It's just so fine, just completely high. I love that place. Anyway, so if you're from Ohio, that resonates with me. So cool. All right. Second question, Mike. Buy or sell? You see yourself on the sidelines as a coach within the next 3 years?
Next 3 years? What level?
Well,
anywhere, high school.
Yeah, because you have a teaching credential, or you went through the teaching ed program. So maybe high school, maybe college, professional.
So I'm buying that with the hindsight that I coached this past fall at a local high school here. But
nice.
That's definitely something that I want to do. No matter the level, that's something that I want to stay involved with. One of the best things that Coach Shanahan told us when I was in San Francisco, talking to the team, his dad, Mike Shanahan, great NFL coach. He goes, "What the fuck else am I going to do? All I know is football."
Right on.
Sorry for the language.
No, we're good. All right. You'll like this one, Mike. Buy or sell streamer fishing over dry fly fishing?
I'm buying that all day.
Nice.
Absolutely. And
Nice.
honestly, that's all I get to do out here, because there's a stream with browns in it about 45 minutes from our house. But during the summer, all it is smallmouth out here. I mean, I'll get the shoulder in shape and throw some streamers all day.
Nice, man. Cool. I like that. Although it is fun to that, you know, the sweet moments in July when you can throw that nice sticky dry, it is pretty cool. But streamer fishing, the tug, man, it is the drug for sure.
No question. I mean, if we're throwing salmon flies, yeah, I'm about that all day long. But
nice.
if I had to choose between the two, it's streamer fishing.
Cool. And the last one for me, buy or sell. Retirement has got me bored.
I'm buying that. Absolutely. That's why I'm starting up this offensive line academy. I think more so because I'm driving my wife nuts than anything. I think she wants me out of the house sometimes, but I don't blame her, because I've been a pain this last year.
So Ryan has his wife make him leave the house sometimes. Your wife wants you out of the house sometimes. How do I get on this plan?
just be as more constantly annoying as possible. Just follow her around 24/7. Maybe after a couple weeks, she'll say, "Get out of here."
Noted. All right, Mike. Well, I think that's it for our questions, man. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast, taking some time to talk to us. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. It was a freaking blast.
Well, we always end these with the Go Cats. I'd love to get a Go Cats from you.
All right, I'll try and do better than Coach Vegan did with his little promo video. All right, Go Cats. Thanks for having me, guys.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.
All right, I got places to be.